Hey guys, it's been a while, but it's game time once again. I actually haven't been playing too much. I've become really disillusioned with the 1 versus 1 Commander Online format because it seems that the people in charge of it have completely dropped the ball on the format and been utterly reluctant to improve it in any way that I think makes the format more fun and varied and interesting. And in fact, by continuously removing search cards from the format, they've actually made it a lot more homogenous, and it's kind of just turned into the thing that I feared at the very beginning when I saw the initial banned list, was that it's a very linear format that kind of almost feels like a mixture between Legacy and Modern, the way the decks to play out. And nearly all the decks that are doing well are abusing the partner mechanic, which they refuse to do anything about, and it's pretty much a mess. And with that in mind, I've kind of stopped playing the format for the time being. I just don't find it very interesting or fun anymore. I can play Nin in that format, and I either play against garbage decks or I play against the usual net decks, and it's a struggle against those decks, and I always feel annoyed because they're just abusing partners. So I've been playing a bunch of regular Commander, which uses the 1v1 ban list. I'm sorry, the multiplayer ban list, which most of you are probably familiar with and play with a majority of the time. And I've been specifically pursuing 1v1 games in that format, which surprisingly aren't that hard to get. I'd say you don't generally have to wait more than a couple minutes or even less than that to get a person to play you in that format. You can obviously play to your heart's content in multiplayer with that ban list all day long. But it is a little bit of a challenge to get a good opponent in the current multiplayer Commander 1v1 situation. Even if you advertise for tough decks, most of the people playing the format tend to be super casual, as all of the less casual people have gone over to the official 1v1 format. But occasionally you do get a good game, and in order to facilitate that, I've been playing almost exclusively my 2DH builds, the budget versions, with tiny adjustment for online play to try to equalize the playfield a little bit, mainly just running a Soul Ring and running a copy of Rolling Earthquake. But the rest of the deck adheres to the current 1v1, I keep saying that, to the 2DH ban list. And I still need to do a deck tech for that deck because I think a lot of people would be very interested to see it. I've gotten a lot of requests. So here I am up against Chancemo, a guy who I've actually played against numerous times in the past. Haven't seen him in a while, but he tends to play decent decks, and I figured this might be a good match. And he's playing an interesting commander, Reki, the History of Kamigawa, a weird guy who allows you to draw cards every time you play a legendary spell. So I assume his deck is just chock full of legendary spells, and it's certainly aided by the fact that all the planeswalkers are now considered legendary permanents, which is kind of interesting. And I am going first, of course, playing my budget Nin deck, and have borderline keepable hand, but with only a Great Furnace and an Izzet Signet for mana, and a good hand, but not a hand that even contains 2 blue mana. This hand is just too borderline, especially going first. And against a green deck, if he has the ability to destroy even a single land, I just lose. Either a land or an artifact, I'm probably dead in the water. So unfortunately I have to mulligan, hoping to draw something better. And off the mulligan, I get a much worse hand with no mana, so this is an automatic no-brainer throwaway. And off this hand I get no land again, so we're going down to 4. And off this hand I get Myriad Landscape. If this were an island, I would probably be able to keep this hand because I have Ponder, but this does nothing. The rest of my hand has no interaction. I go to 3. At this point, I was basically just kind of pressing the button just to see what the next hand would be before I would just concede. I mean, I don't really have a lot of interest in playing a casual game starting with 3 cards because it's just not going to be a very fun or interactive game against an opponent who has any type of a deck. But I draw Soul Ring, and that gives me at least enough hope, along with Electrolyze, actually, which is quite good if I can draw red mana source. And this is about probably the best 3-card hand I could probably get it. Maybe, I guess if this were Izzet Signet, that would be even better because I could go land, Soul Ring Signet, draw land, and play Nin, and maybe get back in the game with my commander. But it's not too bad, plus I get to scry, so I decide I'm going to keep it and give it the old college try. See what happens. I get Wandering Fumarole on top, which is phenomenal in that it's a blue-red dual land, so I'm going to keep that too. I wish I had, if these cards were reversed, I could even play Nin on turn 2, but unfortunately that's not going to happen. But I'm going to play Soul Ring. And look at that. 1 card in hand versus 7. No problem, right? And he mentions to me that it's just like sad variance. And he strip mines my island. So Electrolyze is certainly out of the question. I know I do have a blue-red dual land on top, so at least that didn't get killed. But Yeah, that's most of my chances, I think, for having any shot at this game right there. Especially because I'm playing budget and just the amount of ways to come back in the game. I have no Winter Orb to lock the game up for long periods of time to recover, and he's got a turn 2 bird as well. But at least I have Soul Ring. Alright, come on, land. Come on, land! If I draw any land here that makes blue or red mana, I'm actually feeling pretty solid because I'll have 4 mana to 1, and even though I'm still way behind, he may be crippled to the point where he can't cast his commander for a couple turns and I can claw my way back into it. And here's Inferno Titan, which is phenomenal card against mono green, and certainly against probably the mono green deck he's playing, but unfortunately 3 mana short of playing that, so that's not happening anytime soon. I just have to be sad. Now he plays his commander. I'm thinking, alright, come on, land. Any land here again. I believe in you. Come on, be there. Mana Leak. Okay, well, that's not a land, but at least it gives me some degree of interactivity, especially if he's going to play a 4-mana planeswalker like Garruk, which would be, which would be basically disastrous. He could potentially play Nissa too off of an Ancient Tomb or a Mana Crypt or something, or a Soul Ring. He's got another forest. He plays Sword of the Animist, a card that I didn't actually even realize was legendary until I saw him cast it and trigger a card draw. So I'm going to, of course, Mana Leak that because I can't let him just continuously develop his mana. And then afterward, he casts Green Sun Zenith. And I honestly, in his position, I think, I mean, unless he just drew this off the top, I have to assume he did. If I were him, I would have definitely Zenith for 3. Assuming he's got a Reclamation Sage and tried to kill off the Soul Ring, because I'm screwed if I only have 1 land. But he Zeniths for 1, and he gets a Finhorn Elf. And now that Electrolyze is looking insane if I can just draw 1 more land that makes blue or red. Come on, deck. You've already screwed me over so many times. I believe in you. Booyah! Island. Alright. Back in this. Killing 2 creatures and drawing a card. I get a 2 for 0. And off that I draw Palladium Mirror. Wow, alright, now I just need a 2nd red mana, and I can actually cast the Inferno Titan off the Palladium Mirror in another land. He plays Nissa, Voice of Zendikar, drawing another card off of his general. Not a generally or a planeswalker you see too often, but it's pretty groovy. Certainly good with a grow wide mechanic. And 3 mana planeswalkers in general are pretty strong just because they come out before your opponent can often interact with them, and they get up to 4 or 5 counters pretty quickly. He hits me for 1. Oh my god, Shivan Reef. So lucky. That is literally the perfect land I could have drawn, I think. A blue-red land that comes into play untapped in this situation, which allows me to both play Palladium Mirror and Nin the Pain Artist. Incredible, incredible, perfect card. Alright. I'm way behind in cards, but almost in parity in mana. He plays Arona's Monument, yet another legendary artifact, which gives him a draw. Makes another dude. Doesn't attack, obviously. Repeal. Interesting. But, of course, this is just a no-brainer turn. I'm going to just slam this Inferno Titan, which allows me to kill off his commander and kill one of the little pesky plants. Pretty amazing. I didn't attack here with Nin to try to remove a counter from Nissa because of this thing. Whenever you cast a creature spell, target creature you control, he could potentially, if he had like Scrib Ranger or something, he could flash it out and pump his plant and kill my Nin. And the Nin is really important. I guess I could repeal the plant in response, but if he were to pump itself too, I guess he could pump a Scrib Ranger. Cast a creature spell. I guess I could have bounced it. It probably was wrong to not attack with Nin there. I made some mistakes with that recently, in fact, including a game online a couple weeks ago where I literally lost a game by 1 life because I didn't attack with Nin earlier, and I could have won the game with an Earthquake, which is very painful. I need to get in the habit of doing that more often. Squeeze damage whenever you can when your opponent starts with 30. Alright, so he plays an Emerald Medallion, so now his green creatures cost 2 less. It's going to be very hard to keep that commander out of play. And then he plays Nissa Vital Force, taking advantage of the new legendary rule, and that these are both Nissas, but because they have different names, they don't interfere with each other. He untaps a land, which is pretty good too, because it gives him a potential blocker against my Inferno Titan, which is an incredibly strong tool for dealing with planeswalkers, especially multiple planeswalkers. But because of the fact that Inferno Titan does an Arc Lightning every time it attacks, I can remove both those plants and force him to chump block with his land or lose one of the planeswalkers. So I'm going to do that. And because this thing has an ultimate that triggers at 6, I decide I'm going to deal 1 point of damage to that and send the attack at the smaller Nissa, killing both plants, redirecting to the Nissa on the right, shrinks it to 5, and he doesn't block, which really surprises me. But I guess he figures that this thing is not long for this world anyway, and given the fact that I can just burn the plants away, and he may need the land for later, so I can kind of respect that. Alright, this has gotten very interesting. So he taps that for 2, takes another 2 damage, untaps it, and he casts Polukanos, which is kind of interesting. And of course, it's got the ability to go monstrous right away. And he immediately does. He does it for 3. So it would have gone to 8, which would have given him the ability to deal 6 to Inferno Titan as well as kill off Palladium Mirror. And with that in mind, of course, I have to take advantage, after looking it up online just to make sure and confirming with Chancemo about it, that if I bounce his guy in response, once the monstrous attempts to resolve, there's nothing in play and the thing won't fight with anything. And it'll be back in his hand. So I'm going to just do that, bounce it. Monstrosity falls off, and now I get to use a big Nin activation as well to draw 3. Awesome. Draw 3 off Inferno Titan. Look at that. In fact, I think we've moved completely into parity with that play after a quadruple mulligan. He has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lands in play, 6, 7 mana. I've got 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 4 cards in hand to his 4. Pretty amazing. It's the power of Nin to come back, and obviously the power of Inferno Titan. Unfortunately, I have no counter spells still, and that's really disconcerting, because I feel like I just need 1 counter here to really kind of lock this game up. Because if I can stop that Polukanos from coming back next turn, then I can probably just run roughshod over him with Inferno Titan. But at least Inferno Titan can munch his Nissa now and get that threat off the board. I deal 3 to him and kill it. And I decide I'm just going to abrade the Emerald Medallion to try to slow his mana down. I wasn't really 100% sure if the Emerald Medallion was better than the Rona's Monument, but this only reduces the cost of creatures. I didn't really care too much about the pumping ability, whereas Emerald Medallion is all green spells and could probably wind up netting him too much mana. So I'm not going to play my Wayfarer's Bauble because I want to keep enough mana available trivially to repeal or potentially use Nin on the Inferno Titan for max effect for 4. Because I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to be sacking the Bauble at the end of the turn, so there's no reason to play it. Alright, so he thinks for a while here. And then he plays his Polukanos again, and he's got the ability to monstrous it 1 time, which is a little annoying because if I go to shoot, if Nin goes to shoot Inferno Titan at end of turn, he can pay 1 mana to pump Polukanos up to 6, kill off Inferno Titan. I won't draw any cards from it, which isn't the worst thing in the world because it does still leave me with Nin and Palladium Mirror. And in retrospect, I think that probably would have been the better play. I could also, I guess I could repeal it, but that's stupid. He'll just do the trade there. So I think the correct play at the end of the turn here, honestly, was investing 4 mana and shooting the Inferno Titan, because it gives him an opportunity. I guess if he makes Polukanos monstrous, deals X damage. Yeah, so it would only be 1 point. It would only be 1 point. Divided, yeah. Yeah, so it would only be a 1 point of damage. You could kill Nin in response, but that would not kill. Yeah, maybe I just misread this thing. No, it would go to 6. So they would becomes monstrous, deals X damage. Yeah, this was a mistake for sure. I misread how this thing was going to interact. I thought it would actually deal damage equal to its power and not equal to X. And that is actually a huge mistake, because if I shoot the Inferno Titan for 4, sure, he can use Polukanos for 1 to ping in the Pain Artist and kill her, but big deal. I draw 4 cards. The Inferno Titan, this thing's a 6/6, and I can just smash him with the Inferno Titan and having drawn 4 extra cards. And the way that this works out is not nearly as good. Yeah, I didn't even use it because I was misreading how it would work. So that was a big mistake. But good to know. I'm going to attack and deal 3 to him. And of course, he'll block. Yeah, and this thing would have been dead if he had tried to fight. Well, actually, no. He would have just fought in the Pain Artist with it. It would have died. But now it's 6/6, and he has the ability to shoot Nin. So in response, I'm going to have Nin shoot herself so that I can trade and kill off Polukanos, since Nin's going to die anyway. Alright, and off the activation I get 4 land. Ugh, so frustrating. To claw my way back into the game only to basically hit 5 blanks in a row there is really, really painful. And now, of course, I've lost the Inferno Titan against his board, and I don't even have a counterspell. My hand is almost dead. And when this happened, I was suddenly really, really nervous about my position in the game. He doesn't have a ton of mana. He's got 7, reduced by the Ruinous Monument, and only 4 cards in hand, but I have no action at all, and I don't even have an active Nin out. Sure enough, he plays his guy. Post-combat, he plays Ronus, the Indomitable, which is pretty gnarly with his commander. I'm just going to cycle my thing in response here since there's nothing else to do. Get an island. And then he plays Tectonic Edge and destroys my Wandering Fumarole, which is fine. Alright. Well, I do have the ability to bounce this thing at least once Ronus is on the stack, or once Ronus tries to pump it, which prevents Ronus from attacking. And I draw another land, which is really, really getting grim. Okay, so I'm just going to play Nin again. And I've got enough mana to repeal his commander, at least to keep Ronus from hitting me in the face when he tries to pump it up. Because he's going to have to invest, 6 mana into it? Yeah, he has to invest 6 into Reki if he wants to attack. So that would prevent him from even replaying his guy. So he casts Umezawa's Jitte. He draws another card off that, which is gnarly. Equips, and now that repeal is looking really nice. So of course I just repeal the creature so he doesn't get counters on the Jitte, which is extremely crucial in my game plan. He replays his dude and equips again. Okay. Well, Void Shatter. Okay, at last I drew a real hard counter. I do have a lot of mana here. I have 11. So I have a lot of ability to use Nin for a lot of cards. The problem is that because of Ronus, he can give trample to his guy, which means that even if I chump block with Nin and have Nin shoot herself, which is a common play to avoid your opponent getting counters on their Jitte, the trample effect will mean he gets counters anyway, which will allow him to kill Palladium Mirror and have a permanent solution to subsequent Nin activation. So I have to get lucky here. Again, draw some way to maybe kill the Jitte, or potentially kill his creature before damage is dealt. So I'm just going to say done. At least I have a Void Shatter to deal with those 5 cards in hand. Alright, here it comes. Of course, I'm going to block here, which forces him to invest 3 mana to give trample. But I'm going to leave 3 mana untapped here, of course, to Void Shatter his playback. And I fully expect him to give trample and to get counters and to start screwing with me, but at least I'm going to draw 6. And given the fact that I've drawn 5 out of my last 6 draws have been lands, I figure I'll probably get some decent action here. And so he gives trample. That's fine, because damage hasn't resolved yet. And off the activation, right off the top, is a charm. So perfect, because this guy does not pump toughness. And I blow his guy up and keep counters off the Jitte even further. And now he doesn't even have a second creature to use Ronus on. So I'm thinking here, okay, please don't have another creature. If you don't have another creature here, and I think his guy currently, it's died twice, so I think his commander currently costs 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He only has 6 mana. -1. So he has 7 available. He's 1 short of being able to replay his commander and having a Jitte outlet. So that's what I'm just hoping for. I'm like, come on. And then when he sacks Mirrored Landscape, I'm nearly certain he doesn't have another creature. And sure enough, he plays Bow of Nylea, another card you don't see very often, but it certainly makes sense in the context of his general's ability. All right, and when he tapped out there and did nothing of consequence, I suddenly felt like my chances in this game were really, really good again. Because now I've got 3 hard counters, well, 2 hard counters and a conditional counter, as well as card draw and fetch and plenty of mana. So, and he's down to 8, which is a really big deal. So I think for a while about attacking with Palladium Mirror, but I figure that I'm going to need the mana at least for 1 more turn, because what I'd really like to do is just get another Nin activation off, or at least draw 4 extra cards between Thirst and Dismiss, which I think, given the fact that I have 6 to 8 cards left, gives me a reasonable chance of getting to one of my red X spells. Plus, he's so low in health that unless he starts gaining life from the Bow of Nylea, I could probably just kill him with regular burn plus attacks. I'm going to use Trinket Mage's ability. Not really many choices left here. I'm just going to get the Chalice. I'm going to tap those 2. Instead of attacking with Palladium Mirror, I'm just going to go in. So I think about it for a second. I realize I can only make the Chalice for 2. It's my 3rd Sol Ring that I've played this game, and I throw some crappy lands away. Holding onto the Seat of the Synod to use Thirst for Knowledge. And I've got enough mana to both Dismiss and Memory Lapse here, which I figure against his 4-card hand and the way that things are looking here is probably about perfect. Let's see what he does. He plays another land, and then he replays Reki. So I am going to just dismiss this. Draw. I get Preordain. And then he taps out to cast Predator Flagship. It's a pretty awesome card. Another card you probably have never ever seen used in EDH. I remember playing against this card way back in Draft. Back in, like, I don't know, around the turn of the millennium. Pretty crazy card in Draft, actually, if you get enough mana in play. Because it gives you the ability to spend 7 to destroy creatures over and over again. He can certainly do that. So I'm going to have to just counter it. And I opt to Memory Lapse it, since I'd like him to draw it again next turn, since it's not a big creature. And he's down to 6. And he did not gain any off the Bow of Nylea. And I've got Merchant Scroll in hand, 2 attackers, and I have Fire Ice in my deck. And almost with perfect timing, as soon as I've drawn Jody N and I'm about to tap mana to cast Merchant Scroll to go get the Fire Ice to finish the game, he concedes. Whew, what a game. This game was super intense. It went from being kind of a joke at the beginning to suddenly becoming serious, and then after that Nin activation that just drew 4 land and then a 5th land right afterward, I was really despondent and feeling like I had almost no chance to win. I think the game certainly would have gone a lot easier for me if I had understood how Polukanos works. Sorry about that. I'll definitely not misplay around the card next time. But that's what happens when you deal with unfamiliar creatures. But overall, I thought this was just an awesome raw demonstration of how this deck can come back from seemingly impossible circumstances. A mulligan down to 3 and a strip mine on turn 1 from my opponent. And I managed to claw my way back with the good control elements and the raw power of that commander. Hope you guys really enjoyed this game, and I expect that I'll have some other good Nin games to come. I intend to play the deck quite a bit more, and we'll do that deck tech soon, so stay tuned for that. See you guys later.